It should have been deadly. No heaters, icy nights, longhouses built like drafty tunnels, but somehow Native Americans slept through winter without freezing to death. What was their secret? First off, the walls themselves played a huge role. Thick bark walls weren't just barriers against the weather. They were thermal storage systems that saved lives during the harshest winter conditions. During daylight hours, these walls absorbed heat from central fires like massive wooden batteries charging up for the night ahead. The bark didn't just sit there looking decorative, it actively soaked up warmth and held onto it for hours after flames died down completely. Wood acted like nature's own heating pad that never needed plugging in. The thick layers created thermal mass that kept interior temperatures significantly warmer than the brutal cold outside. Multiple layers of bark weren't accidental design choices made by people who didn't understand thermal dynamics. Each layer added extra insulation that trapped air pockets between sections. Air doesn't move heat well, which meant warmth stayed trapped inside where people needed it most during long winter nights when temperatures could drop to deadly levels. Meanwhile, woven mats hung along interior walls created additional thermal barriers that worked like double-paned windows before anyone invented glass technology. These weren't decorative touches to make spaces look nice. They were functional insulation that could mean the difference between survival and death when temperatures dropped to dangerous levels. The layering system worked like wearing multiple sweaters, except your entire house was the sweater. Trapped air spaces acted like invisible blankets surrounding living areas completely. Of course, wall construction varied by region and available materials, but the principle remained constant across different tribes and climates throughout North America. Thick thermal mass absorbed heat during the day and released it slowly at night, creating natural climate control that required no external energy sources or modern technology. Some longhouses featured interior bark panels that could be adjusted based on seasonal temperature changes and weather conditions. Families could add or remove layers depending on how cold the winter became, customizing their thermal protection for maximum effectiveness throughout the changing seasons. The outer bark layer faced weather directly, while inner layers stayed dry and maintained their insulating properties throughout harsh winter months. Multiple barriers meant backup protection when individual layers failed or became damaged during severe storms that could last for days. Different bark types offered varying insulation properties that experienced builders learned to use strategically. Cedar bark provided excellent moisture resistance, while birch bark offered superior flexibility that prevented cracking during temperature changes. Understanding thermal dynamics without formal education, Native Americans created wall systems that modern engineers study for energy-efficient building design principles. The heat retention worked so well that some longhouses had better insulation than modern apartments with central heating. These shelters stayed comfortable even during blizzards that killed unprepared travelers caught in the open wilderness. But walls alone couldn't keep people warm. They needed something even more direct against their skin. Bedding made from dried grass and reeds wasn't primitive. It was engineered insulation that outperformed many modern materials through centuries of refinement. These natural fibers created countless tiny air pockets that trapped body heat while allowing moisture to escape through the bedding layers. Dried grass stayed lightweight, yet provided excellent insulation, while reeds added structural support that prevented the bedding from compressing under body weight during sleep. Then there was animal fur, which took thermal protection to the next level with specialized heat retention that had evolved over millions of years. Bear fur was basically nature's version of a heated blanket that never ran out of batteries. Strategic layering meant everything when lives depended on staying warm through sub-zero nights that could kill within hours of exposure. Bottom layers used materials that insulated against cold ground surfaces that constantly drained heat from sleeping bodies. Middle layers trapped the most air for maximum insulation effectiveness. Top layers reflected body heat back downward instead of letting it escape into the cold air above sleeping areas. Additionally, moisture-resistant materials prevented the deadly problem of wet insulation that lost its warming ability instantly when dampness crept in from breathing or external humidity. Cedar bark and specially treated hides repelled water while maintaining their thermal properties, ensuring bedding stayed effective even during humid conditions. Moisture management was like keeping your insulation from turning into a soggy mess that worked about as well as a wet paper towel. Mats woven from cattail reeds provided firm surfaces that elevated bodies above cold ground while maintaining flexibility for comfortable sleep positions throughout the night. When it came to clothing systems, they worked on the same layering principles as bedding, but had to allow for movement and daily activities without restricting essential tasks. Base layers used soft materials that felt comfortable against skin, while wicking moisture away from the body to prevent dangerous heat loss through evaporation. Fur-lined garments provided the heaviest insulation for the coldest conditions when survival depended on maximum heat retention without compromising mobility. Wearing a buffalo coat was like walking around inside a portable sauna that followed you everywhere. The thick fur trapped so much warm air that people could stay comfortable even during the worst winter storms that lasted for days. Layered clothing systems allowed for temperature adjustment throughout the day as conditions changed and activity levels varied significantly. People could add or remove layers based on work demands, weather changes, and proximity to heating sources without compromising their core thermal protection system. Finally, specialized winter clothing included fur-lined boots, mittens, and headwear that protected extremities where frostbite struck first during dangerous cold exposure. These items used the warmest available furs positioned strategically to maintain blood circulation in hands, feet, and head areas where heat loss occurred most rapidly during extreme conditions. The complete clothing and bedding system created personal thermal environments that could keep people alive even when external conditions became lethal to unprepared individuals caught without proper protection. Yet, even the best bedding meant nothing without reliable heat sources nearby. Central fires weren't just light sources, they were the beating hearts of longhouse heating systems that kept entire families alive through deadly winter conditions. Fire placement required careful engineering to maximize heat distribution while minimizing the deadly danger of smoke inhalation that could kill sleeping families within hours. Positioning fires in optimal locations meant the difference between comfortable warmth and carbon monoxide poisoning during long winter nights when ventilation was severely limited by weather conditions. Strategic fire pits worked like ancient central heating systems that ran on wood instead of monthly utility bills. The central location allowed heat to radiate outward in all directions, reaching every sleeping area with life-sustaining warmth that prevented hypothermia during the coldest hours before dawn. However, smoke management became critical for survival because poorly ventilated fires could suffocate everyone inside within hours of falling asleep. Fire pits were positioned beneath natural vents or specially created openings that allowed smoke to escape upward while keeping precious heat trapped at living levels where people needed it most for survival. Banking fires required precise skill that took years to master completely and effectively for overnight heating success. Families would cover glowing coals with carefully measured ash layers that reduced oxygen flow just enough to keep embers alive without producing flames that could spread dangerously through sleeping areas filled with flammable materials. Fire banking was like putting your heating system on cruise control for the entire night. The technique allowed fires to smolder for 12 hours or more, providing steady heat throughout the night while eliminating the need for dangerous middle-of-the-night fire tending in dark conditions. Different wood types burned with varying heat outputs and duration characteristics that experienced firekeepers learned to use strategically throughout different parts of the night. Hardwoods like oak burned slowly and produced steady heat for hours, while softwoods ignited quickly but burned out faster, making them useful for rapid heating when conditions changed suddenly or when quick warmth was needed. Furthermore, multiple small fires often worked better than single large ones for distributing heat evenly throughout long structures that housed many families in different sections. Several heat sources provided backup warmth when individual fires failed and allowed for localized temperature control in different areas based on specific needs and sleeping arrangements. Managing multiple fires was like being a heating technician who had to service several furnaces without any modern tools. Fire maintenance tools included long-handled implements that allowed safe coal management without getting too close to dangerous heat sources that could cause severe burns. Ash removal and fire pit cleaning happened regularly to maintain optimal burning efficiency and prevent dangerous buildup of flammable materials that could cause uncontrolled fires. Clean fire pits burned more efficiently and produced less smoke, improving both heating effectiveness and air quality for sleeping families throughout the structure. Emergency fire starting materials stayed ready near sleeping areas in case main fires died unexpectedly during critical overnight hours when rapid reheating could prevent fatal hypothermia. Quick fire restoration capabilities meant survival when heating systems failed during the most dangerous cold periods that tested human endurance limits. But even perfect fires needed help from the ceiling above to work effectively. Roofs did more than keep snow out. They were thermal management systems that controlled heat flow with scientific precision developed over generations of trial and error. Angled roof designs trapped warm air near the ceiling while creating carefully planned pathways for smoke to escape without taking all the precious heat with it. The angles were calculated to maximize heat retention while ensuring proper ventilation that prevented dangerous smoke accumulation. The roof worked like an air traffic controller for heat and smoke, directing each to their proper destinations. This prevented dangerous smoke buildup while maintaining the thermal envelope that kept people alive during sub-zero conditions. Interestingly, smoke created an unexpected thermal layer under the ceiling that actually helped slow heat loss through the roof structure above. This hot air barrier acted like natural insulation that reduced heat transfer to the cold outside air, keeping more warmth trapped in the living space where families needed it most. Smoke became an accidental heating assistant that earned its keep by blocking heat loss before getting fired through the roof vents. Adjustable vents allowed families to control airflow based on outside temperature conditions and wind direction that could dramatically affect indoor air quality and heat retention. Vent adjustment was like having ancient climate control that responded to weather changes in real time without any mechanical systems. Experienced longhouse residents could read wind patterns and temperature shifts, adjusting roof openings to optimize the balance between heat retention and air quality throughout changing conditions. Roof insulation used natural materials like bark, thatch, and even snow that provided thermal barriers against heat loss through the top of the structure. Snow actually helped insulate roofs during winter months, creating additional thermal mass that kept interior temperatures stable even during extreme cold snaps that could last for weeks. Meanwhile, smoke hole positioning took advantage of natural airflow patterns that drew contaminated air upward and out of living spaces effectively without creating downdrafts. The holes were sized and placed to create proper draft that pulled smoke away from sleeping areas while minimizing the amount of heated air that escaped with the smoke. Roof engineers had to balance letting smoke out while keeping heat in, like trying to drain a bathtub while keeping the water warm. Double-layered roof construction created air spaces between inner and outer coverings that acted like insulation gaps in modern buildings. Roof angles were calculated to shed rain and snow efficiently while maintaining optimal thermal performance for the interior spaces below. Steep angles prevented dangerous snow buildup that could collapse structures, while gentler slopes near smoke holes created proper ventilation without excessive heat loss during operation. Seasonal roof modifications allowed families to adapt their thermal management systems to changing weather conditions throughout the year. Additional coverings could be added during the coldest months, while summer configurations promoted better airflow to prevent overheating when external temperatures rose significantly. Emergency roof repairs could be made quickly when damage threatened the thermal integrity of the structure during severe storms. Families kept repair materials ready and knew exactly how to patch holes or replace damaged sections without losing critical heat during repairs that might take several hours to complete properly. The complete roof system worked with fires below to create controlled thermal environments that could maintain survivable temperatures even during the most extreme weather conditions that tested the limits of human endurance. But the most ingenious heating tricks happened closer to the ground. Heated stones weren't just rocks picked up randomly from outside. They were carefully selected portable heating units that provided personal warmth for hours without any fuel consumption or maintenance. Stones heated in central fires absorbed enormous amounts of thermal energy that could be transferred directly to sleeping areas where people needed localized warmth, most during the coldest parts of winter nights. The process required timing and skill to heat stones to optimal temperatures without overheating them to dangerous levels. These ancient heating pads worked better than electric blankets because they never needed an outlet or ran out of juice during the night. Large stones could radiate gentle heat for 8 to 10 hours after being removed from fire sources, providing all-night comfort without any additional fuel. Stone selection required extensive knowledge of which types held heat longest without cracking under extreme temperature changes that could cause dangerous explosions. Granite and sandstone worked best because they heated evenly and cooled slowly without thermal shock, while limestone and other sedimentary rocks could shatter violently when heated too quickly, creating dangerous projectiles that could seriously injure sleeping families. Different stone sizes served different purposes in the heating system. Large stones provided steady heat for many hours, while smaller stones heated quickly for immediate warmth but cooled faster. Medium stones offered the best balance of heating speed and duration for most family needs. Meanwhile, earthen floors in strategic areas absorbed heat during the day from fires and foot traffic, then released it slowly at night like natural thermal batteries built directly into the ground beneath living spaces. These thermal masses stored tremendous amounts of energy that would otherwise be wasted, creating warm zones that prevented heat loss through contact with cold ground surfaces. Clay floors worked like ancient underfloor heating systems that stored energy all day and delivered warmth all night without any moving parts. The dense earth materials held heat much longer than organic materials, providing steady warmth through the coldest pre-dawn hours when external temperatures dropped to their most dangerous levels. Small pits filled with heated sand or clay created localized warming stations that could be positioned exactly where individual family members needed extra heat based on age, health, or sleeping location. These micro-heating zones allowed for personalized temperature control without wasting fuel on heating entire areas when only specific spots required additional thermal input for comfort and safety. Heated sand retained warmth for hours while remaining safe to touch and easy to shape around body contours for maximum contact and efficient heat transfer. Sand could be molded to fit perfectly against feet, backs, or other areas where people needed focused warming without the risk of burns from direct contact with hot stone surfaces. Sand heating was like having a custom heating pad that molded perfectly to your body and stayed warm for hours without any electricity. Thermal pit construction used carefully selected stones to line earthen depressions that held heated materials safely while preventing heat loss to surrounding soil that would waste precious thermal energy. Underground thermal storage involved burying heated stones or clay masses that would radiate warmth upward through sleeping platforms for hours after being charged with heat energy from daily fires. This created heated sleeping surfaces that provided comfort and safety during the most dangerous cold periods when survival depended entirely on maintaining core body temperature above critical levels. Emergency heating materials stayed ready near sleeping areas so families could quickly create thermal sources when primary heating systems failed during critical overnight periods. Quick access to backup heating prevented fatal hypothermia when unexpected equipment failures threatened survival during extreme cold conditions that could kill within hours. Yet even the most advanced heating technology couldn't compare to the warmth people created together. Families didn't just sleep together for companionship. They created sophisticated human heating systems that could survive temperatures that would kill isolated individuals within hours of exposure. Strategic clustering by size, age, and health optimized heat distribution throughout sleeping groups with scientific precision that maximized survival chances for everyone in the family unit. Positioning was based on careful observation of how different people generated and lost heat under various conditions. Large families became living furnaces where each person was both a heater and a customer staying warm from the group effort. This collective thermal management saved lives during the coldest nights when individual heating efforts would have failed completely against brutal winter conditions. Children slept in the center of family groups because they lost heat faster than adults due to their smaller body mass and higher surface area to volume ratios. Adults positioned themselves around children like thermal shields, radiating body heat inward while creating protective barriers against cold air that could cause fatal hypothermia in smaller bodies within a matter of hours. Heat production varied significantly by individual based on body size, metabolism, age, and health conditions that affected internal temperature regulation throughout extended cold exposure periods. Heat production varied by individual, so families arranged themselves like a heating efficiency expert, organizing furnaces by output capacity. Families arranged sleeping positions to place the best heat producers in locations where their warmth could benefit the most people, while ensuring optimal thermal distribution throughout the entire group arrangement. Additionally, pets and small domesticated animals added extra warmth to sleeping arrangements while providing additional benefits like companionship and security during long winter nights that could last up to 16 hours in northern regions. Dogs were basically furry heating pads that also served as early warning systems for danger, their higher body temperatures and thick natural fur coats making them valuable thermal partners in the fight against deadly cold. Sleeping arrangement rotation allowed different family members to occupy prime warming positions throughout the night as conditions changed and individual thermal needs shifted based on health, age, and external temperature fluctuations. This prevented any single person from becoming dangerously cold while ensuring optimal heat distribution as outside temperatures dropped during the most dangerous overnight hours. Body contact maximization increased heat transfer between family members while minimizing surface area exposed to cold air that could drain precious warmth rapidly from the group thermal envelope. Strategic positioning reduced heat loss while maintaining comfort and allowing for necessary movement during sleep without disrupting the carefully constructed thermal management system. Shared bedding created thermal envelopes that trap collective body heat while providing insulation barriers against cold air infiltration from outside areas that could destroy the warm microclimate. Shared breathing techniques helped warm incoming cold air before it reached lungs while contributing to the overall thermal environment, turning the whole family into a coordinated heating team. Coordinated breathing patterns could actually raise ambient temperature in enclosed areas through the collective warming of exhaled air throughout the night, creating warmer microclimates that benefited everyone in the sleeping group. Strategic sleeping arrangements turned families into survival machines that could outlast winter conditions that defeated individual efforts to stay warm. The techniques allowed longhouses to stay survivable even during extremely cold nights when outside temperatures dropped well below levels that could sustain human life without protection and group cooperation. Emergency repositioning procedures allowed families to respond quickly to changing thermal conditions during the night without losing critical heat from the group sleeping system. Quick adjustments maintained optimal warming when individual family members experienced thermal distress or when outside conditions became more severe than expected during unpredictable weather changes. The real genius wasn't in any single technique, but in understanding how everything worked together like a perfectly tuned survival orchestra where every instrument played its part.